Curtain Network.
¡Pique the Pickens! ¡Pique the Pickens! ¡Pique the Pickens!
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another SCN Steelers Postgame Show. I am Jeff Hartman, joined by Dave Schofield and eventually Bryan Davis as the Steelers win on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. Final score 16-10 in the new look Steelers offense, if that's what we're going to call it today. The new look Matt Canada-less Steelers offense is in full effect, and we're going to talk about it all, but let's welcome everyone to the show. Dave, what's going on?
It's a victory, and it was a weird feeling through the day, or through the game, because I kept saying, is it strange that at halftime the Steelers are losing, but I feel so much better about this team right now? I'm like, is this how other teams feel when they play the Steelers? That you're like, I don't know why we're down because we're not playing this team. But this time, yeah, the Steelers, it just was a completely different feel this time.
Absolutely. Bryan Davis, welcome to the show. What's going on?
Well, I am Katrina and the wavesing it because I am walking on sunshine. I don't care what it looks like outside. That feels pretty good. And I got to remind everybody real quick, some idiot on the preview said, hey, what if the Steelers, let's take the over on the Steelers getting 400 yards. I am that idiot.
Hey, I didn't call you an idiot. I just said I was going to take the under. Yeah, there you go.
I wanted to. I didn't think they'd make that big of a jump all at once, but yeah, it was great to see.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot to nitpick about this game, and we're going to do that not just on this podcast, but throughout all of the week as we get ready for the Week 13 game where, yes, they do go over 400 yards, but they only score 16 points, and there's a lot of missed opportunities. We're going to talk about all that, but before we do anything, get to any super chats, we always do knee-jerk reactions. Dave, what's yours?
Knee-jerk reaction is I feel more hopeful going forward that the Steelers can continue to go in the right direction.
Fair enough. What about you, Bryan Davis?
Well, I'd like to go back in time last week at this time when we were all deflated and say that might be the best loss in Pittsburgh Steelers history, just for the fact that it feels like the Steelers are rejuvenated. And that's what I saw today. 16 points is not a lot, and that's not a lot to get too excited about. But the fact that they were able to kneel down at the end of the game, be in victory formation that we have not seen in a long time, the fact that everybody looked rejuvenated, the fact that Freiermuth was in the game, the fact that they still ran the ball well, the fact that Kenny came pretty close to 300 yards passing without throwing an interception, the fact, everything that this just looked like a different team, and this is what we've been asking for. This is not a I told you so type of thing. This is what we all were hoping for, and let's hope it continues. You had to get out of the state of Ohio 1-1, and that's pretty good. This is a big division win, and this pretty much puts the Bengals on notice.
Yes, absolutely. In the division race and the playoff race, they are on notice. My knee-jerk reaction is there's a lot of times where people ask, in the National Football League, does coaching matter? To me, this shows you that it still does matter, even at the professional level. Because when you remove a coach and you have everything in-house and you have two coordinators, we all know the situation. It was markedly different, and in a good way. The Steelers were able to move the ball. They had 0 3-and-outs in this game. So for me, for anyone out there that might be listening to this, watching this, whatever, who says, well, does coaching even matter? To me, this solidified that yes, coaching does matter. So we're going to talk about this at length today during this podcast. So buckle up. As we always do, we'll start with any super chats. People were getting their super chats in before we even went live and hit record. So let's get started with Evgeny Crosby. He gives us $5, says this is the first time all year that I feel like this season won't be in vain. Thank you, Cleveland, for beating us last week. # Canada's fault. Evgeny, you're not going to be the only person that thinks that. And we talked about on the preview, winning by losing, I guess, so to speak. Topher Daniel gives us $4.99.
He's a great one.
Said, got married yesterday. Congratulations, Topher. He
Congratulations.
said, to my beautiful now wife, and the Steelers get a win, and finally 400 yards, a great wedding gift. Go Pittsburgh. Absolutely, Topher. Congratulations. It's pretty cool. Captain Underpants gives us $2. Says that number 88 guy was pretty freaking good. Yeah, we kind of forgot that he was on the team, right? He's talking about Pat Fryermuth, obviously. We'll talk about him during this podcast. Steel Dog 88 gives us $5. Said this win feels like a Steelers deserved win. Finally, 400-yard game. Also props to Walker and Thompson for stepping up on D and making plays. And this isn't the first week they've done that. They did it last week as well. Definitely worthy of praise. We'll put it that way. Frank Bennett gives us $16. Thank you very much, Frank. He said, Kenny MF Pickett, let's effing go is essentially what he's saying. Where are the haters at? I think we know now Kenny can get the job done. That's going to be a really interesting talking point here as we move forward. Thank you for the tip. We appreciate it. Ken Cruz, I would say, gives us $5. Is a Steelers game that was fun to watch. Yes. I mean, this is the first time all season that I had my family watching the game together and we were actually cheering and clapping, and it wasn't just sitting there staring at a television screen like you were a mindless
You
idiot.
had a hopeful feeling, didn't you, Jeff?
There was just something to cheer
for.
Like there was something
same
here. Yeah. All right, let's go to Christopher. He gives us $2. His Boz to Canada. It wasn't because of you. And that's going back to last year when that video surfaced. There you go. Crystal Privet. She's a big Najee supporter. She gave us $2. Says, shout out to Najee, Muth, and Pat P, all back from the graveyard. Thank you, Crystal, for the $2. Yeah. We do appreciate it indeed. Ken McNair, he gives us, let me get this on the screen quickly, $1.99. Say, guys, do we have a Deontay problem? Oh, we are going to talk about Deontay Johnson in this podcast a lot, and probably for all the wrong reasons. We'll get to that shortly. Let's go to Kyle Smith, gives us $5. Says, fire the problem, and suddenly Pickett looks like an NFL quarterback. Crazy. How did Canada survive 2.5 years? That's the question. That's the big question right now, is how did he survive that long? I don't know. Andrew Palladino says, we waited 3 years for this. 3 years. 3 years. Awesome game plan by EF, Eddie Faulkner. Said it was evident who wasn't calling the plays. Great time to get hot / hashtag. Here we go. Thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate it. Tom Plays Games gives us $7. Tom Muir. He says $1 per win. We had America's offense today. Still need more touchdowns, but I'll always take the W. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Let's go to Justin Gall. Gives us $9.99. Great to see the Steelers play all 4 quarters, take away the fumble and 2 coaching errors, and it's a blowout. Kenny reading the field. All right. Thank you very much for the tip, Justin, and everyone else that donated their hard-earned cash to the program. We do appreciate it. Look, everyone's going to want to talk about this. Kenny Pickett, so let's start right there. Let's start with the quarterback, as we always do. Kenny finishes the game 24 of 33, 278 yards, and 8.4-yard average. He did not have a touchdown, also no interceptions, breaking Ben Roethlisberger's streak of most consecutive attempts without an interception. Was sacked 2 times, 97.8 rating. Gentlemen, what do you think about Kenneth Shane Pickett in this new offense? Dave, we'll start with you.
Well, I think it was really helpful to show him right away how things are going to work. I seem to recall on Thursday night someone wanting to ask you a question, Jeff, about what's going to happen and how is Steelers Nation going to react if on the very first offensive play, they fake the run to Najee Harris and hit Freiermuth going right down the middle of the field. And what do they do on the very first play? That's what it showed that everything was different. And I think that really helped with Kenny Pickett's confidence. Was it perfect, his game? No. Did you see his passing chart? I know how much you hate the passing chart, Jeff. It was spread out all over the place. It really was. That was great. Especially the first half, did he struggle and kind of panic under pressure? I think that he did. Did he have the one in the first half that he tried to do the duck and roll left and still got sacked? He did. But he also made some other plays, particularly but in the second half, I didn't see the problems that I thought, well, he could do this better, like I did in the first half.
Okay. Bryan, what do you think about Kenny Pickett?
Well, he showed that he could be a good quarterback in this game. Last week, they needed a marginal Pickett, and they didn't even get that. And look, each and every one of us, the 3 of us here, got absolutely crucified on the YouTube comments after the show last week. Some people saying that, hey, you guys are so stupid. You actually think that this change is going to make some kind of difference. I'm done with the show. I'm done with all of you. They were going after each one of us. And they're like, boy, you guys know nothing about football. But something that we know, and we have sources, and we don't tell you who our sources are, but they told us a lot before the Raiders game that Kenny Pickett's not allowed to audible. Kenny Pickett's not allowed to throw across the field. Kenny Pickett wants to throw to Pat Freiermuth more. Kenny Pickett wants to do this. Kenny Pickett's confused. And I said shackles. I said he was in shackles, and somebody called me out for that. Kenny Pickett was in shackles. He was chained. And that's exactly what it was. So look, I'm not, once again, this is not, I told you so. This is just like, look, not everything is what you think it is that you see. There's stuff going on behind the scenes. There's still stuff going on behind the scenes that you would be shocked at. But all I know is you got a good Kenny Pickett. And we've said this all along. There were signs of brilliance last year. And we got nailed for that too. I don't hear anybody saying about it right now. This is what you wanted, because as soon as the problem was gone, there's some negative people that wanted to go right after Kenny Pickett, right after somebody else, and say, this is not fixing a thing. It did not fix the season, but your team is now 7-4, and you have a lot more hope than you did before. And I feel comfortable. I felt comfortable with Kenny Pickett. I would say 96% of the.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, okay, there you go. Very good. For me, like Kenny Pickett's play today, it just looked more confident. You know, when you watched the way that they mixed it up, and this is where we've always said, and we said it last week when we saw the Browns and the plan for with DTR, a rookie quarterback, late round pick, second career start, but really the first one where he actually had time to plan for it. And we saw a coordinator / play caller, I guess, in the Steelers' new scheme that were able to say, like, let's mix it up. Let's not be predictable. Let's not have the defense saying, well, we know exactly what they're going to do. And Dave hit the nail on the head. The very first play from scrimmage, play action down the seam to a tight end. I'm literally trying to think when the last time we saw that to a tight end this season, and I can't. The closest thing I could come to was when they went down the seam to Deontay Johnson, and it went incomplete. And correct me if I'm wrong, was that against Jacksonville? And it was off the tip of his fingers. He had to jump. They said it was a little high. Yes, but some said he should have caught it.
Yes,
I think that was
one.
Jacksonville.
There's so many Deontay Johnson. He should have caught his plays. It's hard to remember them all.
You're right. But the thing is that you saw a huge step in the right direction from a play calling standpoint, from a scheme standpoint, and from Kenny Pickett's development standpoint, I think, as well. Now, he'll have to do it again. He's going to have to prove a lot of doubters wrong, and that's fine. It's not going to happen overnight. But we saw a step in the right direction. And I look at this game, and I say, you know, what's the next step? What is the next step? The Steelers struggle when teams bring all-out blitzes. All-out pressure still seems to give the Steelers fits, and that's when Kenny Pickett goes into a spinorama, and he ends up giving up a sack, and sometimes it's costly. And they did seem to settle in. The offensive pass protection looked a little bit better down the stretch. We did mention that Kenny Pickett was sacked 2 times. The pressures, let me see what Cincinnati came up with in terms of quarterback hits. They only had 4. So the offensive line did a better job. But Kenny Pickett, I thought he had a good game. And people that want to criticize he had a lack of touchdowns and bringing up Tommy DeVito's stats, like, I really don't care. I personally don't care. I care about the Steelers being 7-4 and being right in the thick of the playoff race, and I care about them succeeding. I don't care how they win. I just honestly don't. So, Dave, is there anything else you want to add about Kenny Pickett before we move on?
No, just that. Are we wanting to hand him the NFL MVP now? No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying is from what we saw last week, which was, I don't know if you can get much worse quarterback play than that outside of throwing interceptions. That was the redeeming quality. To then what you saw this week was night and day.
Right. Bryan, any final thoughts on Kenny Pickett?
Nope. I'm feeling good, and there's hope. That's all we wanted.
Okay. Yeah, very good. Let's get some super chats on the screen. Master P gives us $4.99. Said Kenny Pickett is still missing some throws, but I feel like there's a lot they can build from after this game. And holy crap, they actually know what play action is. Yes, that was a huge difference in the game. They play action pass when they run the ball so well, and they continue to run the ball well. You would think that that would have been a staple a long time ago, yet we know it wasn't. Let's go to Steelers Nation Australia. Give us $5 dingo dollars. He said, if Yinzers complain about the Steelers win, Jeff, can I apply for a role on your golf podcast? Can't handle the negative fans. Hey, shout out to my golf podcast, Fairways and Dreams. Go check it out if you're a golf fan. But Mark, unless I don't know if you have golf experience or not. Love to have you on for sure. Okay,
let's continue. Though, man. He's a good
pickleballer. Yeah.
He's out playing sport. Remember?
No, he's out playing sport. Yeah. David Spicer gives us $2. We'll get this out of the way quickly. $2 for the Trenton Thompson Appreciation Fund. Hey, Trenton Thompson. We'll talk about him when we get to the defense, but we're on the offense right now. Let's go to the offensive line. Talked about the pressures, talked about the sacks surrendered, but let's also talk about just overall total rushing numbers. The Steelers did rush for 153 yards on 33 carries, a 4.6 yard average. They did have a touchdown, a long of 22. What do you think about the Hogs up front, Dave?
Well, this is their lowest rushing total for the last 4 games. If you look at it, a 4-game stretch, this is the lowest one. Okay, that's a good thing. Also remember that the Steelers lost 2 yards on when they were obviously running because they were in field goal range to go up two scores, and they lost 3 yards on the kneel down. So that they would have had 5 more yards if you really want to go take those away. But I got a feel for Najee Harris, had the 100 yards and then lost one yard on his last carry. Bryan pointed that out. Sorry, I took your thunder there, bad. That was all you on that stat. I just felt I felt they were keying on Jaylen Warren more than Najee Harris. They were ready to go after Jaylen Warren, and Najee Harris, the play where he ran into the pile when the pile kept moving, and then all of a sudden he burst out of the pile, that kind of summed up the day.
Yeah, I agree. Bryan, what's your thoughts on the offensive line?
I thought you said Hogs, and
I was talking about running. I'm sorry, that was my mistake.
We'll come back to you, Dave. Don't worry about it.
So we're talking about the running game, right?
Yeah.
We can talk about the running game now and then come back to the offensive line. So go ahead and talk about the running game. Let's do it that way.
You know, I really thought the running game was spectacular. That's, you know, we say this and it's cliche. Run sets up the pass sets up the run. They complement each other really well. And you could not, it wasn't like last season where you can key on one thing and stifle the other thing. This was more of a complete offense that we've seen in a long time from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm even talking about the year that they went 11-0 before falling apart. The offense is a lot more complete right now, and it's due to the running game coming alive, I would say around week 7, week 8. And that makes you feel so much better about what you're seeing from this team. The running game was great. Najee Harris, to me, looked like a man on a mission today. It almost, this is going to sound really crazy. It almost sounded like Najee Harris was out to prove something today, to prove that he is a big member of this team. It kind of felt like that. And not that we think that Najee needs to do that, but man, Najee was running hard. It was almost seemed like he was running for his football life.
Yeah, the rushing game was interesting. I thought it was a good compliment. I looked at the total numbers. Rushes 33, passes 33. So those people that like numerical balance, I don't say that balance is always numerical, but there you go. That's pretty.
Well, they were sacked twice, so that didn't go into either category. But yeah, so it was about as balanced as you could get.
In terms of attempts, 33 and 33. So yeah, I mean, when you look at the box score, here's the thing that drives me crazy. And I will say this: Jaylen Warren, you can't put the ball on the turf. Like that is the one thing as a runner. You cannot put the ball on the turf. There's nothing that's going to get you taken out of this equation faster than you fumbling the football. Now, he did have a couple fumbles earlier this year. They were recovered by Pittsburgh, though. And so a lot of times that just kind of goes by the wayside. Don't put the ball on the turf. Najee Harris, good for you. Good for you for showing that, hey, I'm still a viable option here. When everyone's on the Jaylen Warren bandwagon and he's getting the angry run of the week, you know what? Najee Harris goes out there and puts together a great game. And I'm going to say it. I'm going to continue to say it. It is a hill I will die on this season. We do not need to have an either or proposition when it comes to the running backs. It can be and. You saw it today. Jaylen Warren wasn't working. Dave's even said it. They were scheming for him. So this is when Najee Harris should be able to really excel inside on the interior runs. That's what he should excel at. And he did. So good for them. They need to be there together. They need both of those players. I like the running game for the Steelers. As I'm trying to see here, I want to make sure I give them the props that they deserve. 4.6 yards per carry. I will take that. I will take that for sure. Now, Dave, let's go and talk about the offensive line a little bit. What did you think about the offensive line?
Okay.
Now that we've talked about the quarterback play and the running backs.
I don't know. My mind took me to the run blocking and I went straight into rushing and I'm crazy. Let's just say this. Did they stand out in a bad way?
The Dan Moore sometimes pisses me off, but other than that, no, I mean, it wasn't too bad.
No, I mean, there was one time they were trying to show it. Poor Isaac Seumalo had one guy, basically had two guys blitzed right at him, and he had to try to block one and then try to block the other one and whatever quickly because it was just too much coming at him. But both sacks were in the first half, weren't they? And the one was Kenny stepping up into the pocket and just didn't make it back to the line of scrimmage. It might have been that one might have been in the second half, but it seemed like Kenny Pickett had his arm hit on the one, and people say because of his small hands, he couldn't get the ball out very well. A couple passes like that, but that was early. I thought, especially in the second half, that the offensive line really settled in on both the run blocking and pass blocking.
I agree with that. Bryan, what did you think about the offensive line?
So I look at, I'm going to go outside the box here. But when you look at the best teams in other sports, when you look at the 90s Chicago Bulls, and you look at, even you look at a great baseball team that they have 120 wins, they still lost 42 times. So when you look at the offensive line today, you look at something like, they're going to give up sacks. That play, and we keep going back to the Najee Harris play. That play epitomized team football. It was Najee running hard and those guys trying to help him. And they did. I mean, there's no way that should have been a 20-yard gain. That was one of the ugliest 20-yard gains I've ever seen, and most beautiful at the same time because of the way it happened. If that happened against the Steelers, we would be losing our ever-loving minds because that just showed that those guys were ready to play. And I try to say this up front when Dave realized that we were talking about rushing, but Dave called them hogs. And when I think of hogs, when you call an offensive line hogs, I think that's one of the greatest compliments because it goes back 40 years to the Washington Redskins when they had all those great players up front like Butts and Grimm, and there's so many guys up front. These guys look like a cohesive unit today. There was not a lot of holding. I know you had that one hold on Broderick, and that's fine, but there was not much. But when it came down for Broderick, they picked up another one too. They picked up another one that they thought was a hold, that could have been a hold. And then when you saw Broderick Jones make that touchdown possible and what he did for Najee Harris, Broderick Jones is looking like an anchor of a line and looking like a great first-round pick.
The offensive line has looked different since he's entered the fray, I'll tell you that. Yes. And the running game has looked different since he entered the starting lineup. And it'll be interesting. I do want to bring this up as we go into the pass catchers. I can't take credit for this. I saw someone say this on Twitter when they said Chuks Okorafor got benched for basically suggesting that the team just surrender and just take a knee. Didn't go after a coach or anything like that. And now we talk about Deontay Johnson. And I got to talk about Deontay Johnson. And he was reportedly, before the game started, he was, after last game, he and Minka Fitzpatrick almost got into it. I guess Deontay Johnson was mouthing off at coaches. Minka respects coaches. He's an old school type of guy. He got in his face. Next thing you know, TJ and Cam got to break it up. I'm sure everyone saw that ESPN report from Adam Schefter. So he's running his mouth. We know he wasn't happy. So he drops the touchdown. Some would say that he survived the catch and that, yes, he should have been challenged. It wasn't challenged. Mike Tomlin said after the game that he didn't have a good review of a replay of it. And that leads to the Jalen Warren fumble. But it was the fumble that really drove me crazy. Deontay Johnson is staring right at the play. The ball is loose. Whether it's live or not, I don't care. Jump on the ball. And he is just out for a Sunday stroll. He's in Cincinnati going and checking out the Skyline Chili. And next thing you know, they're picking up the ball and going the other way. In an organization that bends Chukwuekorfor for less, I'm shocked Deontay Johnson didn't find his way to the bench. But you know what? He doesn't have a first-round pick right behind him waiting. But you all can talk about that if you want. I wanted to get that out there before we go to pass catchers. Dave, go ahead and talk about the bad of Deontay Johnson or the good of Pat Freiermuth. Go ahead.
Well, let's get the bad out of the way first. So I'll talk, and I'm not talking Bryan Anthony Davis. Deontay Johnson, I know a lot of people are like, oh, running backwards so far on that play. Now, he wasn't doing what people thought he was doing, but it still wasn't good. He lost his balance and was trying to catch his balance. And by doing so, he ran backwards, stumbled backwards 4 yards, and then was tackled. If he'd have just fallen down when he lost his balance, he'd have lost a yard or two. So some people are like, he's just running straight backwards. He was falling down. So it's not an excuse. It's just an explanation of what's going on. It still wasn't the right play. He still could have just gone down. But you're right about the touchdown. It was what it was. Tomlin said he didn't have a good view of it from the sideline. And then, of course, they would not show a replay for them. So I had said I thought that he had 3 feet in, potentially 4, because you saw eventually you saw that he actually toe dragged and then still stepped in bounds when he had the ball. So that it is what it is. The fumble looked really bad. There was a play, I think it was in the second half. The Steelers were going, if you watched on TV, from the left to the right, and they're going out wide, and they're getting ready to hand the ball off to Jalen Warren, and he's over there messing with his gloves while they snap the ball, and just kind of, I think he was in a stacked formation, and just kind of jogs off. I'm like, that's kind of the epitome of the effort. And that's something that when I was coaching and even when I was playing, that when we would watch film, we would point out lack of effort of wide receivers on run plays. And we would call them out on it to say, just because the play's not to you doesn't mean that you can't do your job in at least selling a play. So that kind of bothered me. I didn't look at him a bunch otherwise, but he just didn't really have it. I did see in the I almost said live chat, but in the open thread from the website that someone said that he was getting chewed out by Tomlin on the sideline at one point. This was in the second half. I didn't see that. Did either of you guys see that?
I did not.
No, I saw that report though.
Yeah, so that was the thing. I didn't see it myself. I just heard someone say that. So it was a rough game for him, even though that he did get a decent bit of targets.
Did you want to talk about the good, or do you want to just pass it off to Bryan and let him talk? Bryan can talk about Deontay
unless we want to circle back to the good.
Yeah, let's circle back. Bryan, do you want to talk about Deontay Johnson?
Yeah, I actually do. I was really disappointed in, first the running backwards in the first series, and that was pretty egregious. And I didn't know what he was doing. I was like, what in the world is he doing? I mean, that's not going to get you more yards, but I'm not in that position. So I wasn't going to really say much. But when he dropped that ball in the end zone, I thought he had 3 feet down. And I was surprised that it wasn't challenged. I was comfortable with Mike Tomlin's assessment of it. And this is not me protecting Mike Tomlin. This is because they didn't start talking about that until the next couple plays were run. That's when Charles Davis really went after that but when it was way too late, because they weren't showing it in stadium. I get it. They didn't see what we saw, thought it was a drop, because sometimes when Deontay Johnson, you're like, there's his drop. But really, I don't think after getting the 3 in, I don't think you should be dropping that football.
No.
I don't think anybody should. I thought that was egregious. And if he is throwing fits and being a problem, trust me, you think that Mike Tomlin allows a lack of discipline? He doesn't. He has meetings with these guys. He handles stuff in-house where you're not supposed to know about it. And that's something that he's always done. Now, did he ball him out on the sidelines? Yeah, he's still going to do that. I didn't see it. I read a report that happened, but I'm fine with it. There's always going to be things that happens where this goes back to Antonio Brown. I remember sitting in great seats at the Pat Mahomes game when he threw like 6 touchdown passes and the Steelers were coming back and they came within a touchdown. Juju got a touchdown. There is Antonio Brown sulking off. We saw it with George Pickens a couple weeks ago. George Pickens hasn't been that same guy since in the Tennessee game. So it's a diva receiver thing. I don't know exactly what it is, but we're seeing some signs of complacency from him. And yeah, he does some important things. Yeah, it's hard to sit this guy down. But if this stuff keeps on happening, he'll be shown the door.
Absolutely. And so I don't want to spend a ton of time on this.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to dissect this probably each and every way. And I'm sure there's going to be some sound that comes out of the locker room that'll be worth noting. The Steelers do have a great performance, the good, by Pat Freiermuth, who has 9 catches, 120 yards, and a long of 29 on 11 targets. 9 catches on 11 targets. George Pickens, 3 for 58. Nothing bigger than that 43-yard bomb in the fourth quarter. Deontay Johnson ends up with 4 catches on 8 targets, 50 yards, 12.5 average with a long of 39. Still didn't have a big play. Jaylen Warren, 3 for 13. Allen Robinson, 1 for 11. Connor Hayward, 2 for 11. Big Darnell Washington, 1 for 10. And even Calvin Austin III, 1 for 5 yards. So a lot of people were involved. The good, which is not Deontay Johnson, so to speak. Dave, what do you want to say about that?
Yeah, the good was finding your tight ends. I mean, even if it was only 1 catch on 1 target, Darnell Washington getting a shorter pass and fighting for the first down was nice. Just Pat Freiermuth using him, lining him up in the slot some too, like you were talking about, Jeff. Doing those sort of things. One stat I don't always trust this when I get it from the Steelers media website. One time I looked at it and reported on it, and here it was way off. But they have the Steelers with 122 yak. Out of the 278, 122 being yak. To me, that's a positive development as well.
Absolutely.
So big props to Pat Freiermuth getting involved. Now, what are defenses going to do? You got the tight end that can burn you. You've got 2 wide receivers as long as they're catching the ball. Who you going to double team? It's a good situation to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. Bryan, what are your thoughts on the good from the receivers?
I liked almost everything I saw from the receivers. I liked some of Deontay Johnson's play today. A majority of it I did not like. But one thing that I'm going to say about this entire unit, I felt like they were working harder to get open. So this goes back to Kenny Pickett's comments about having fun again. It looked like they trusted Kenny Pickett a whole lot more today, because it almost seems like this is a ding dong, the Wicked Witch is dead situation. And it seemed like the entire team, and we're going to talk about the defense in a little bit, but it feels like the defense was rejuvenated. I liked how they were getting open. I thought they were fighting for balls. I really loved the effort of George Pickens on a lot of those plays. I didn't have a problem with anything but those transgressions that we saw from DJ.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's just a much better, it's a more cohesive unit. In my opinion, the offense in and of itself. We've talked a lot about the play calling. We've talked a lot about the quarterback play, the running game. If the worst that we're talking about is Deontay Johnson, and we're talking about potential, him not really, I guess you would say, hustling after plays, well, it wasn't a bad day then, I guess. I guess it wasn't a bad day. So let's get this super chat here before we take a break. Then we'll talk about the defense. Michael D gives us $4.99, says, bad. What an intro. It's truly journalism in real time. A rejuvenated SCN this week, top tier, one lucky Steelers media consumer. Thank you, Michael D, for the kind words and for the tip. We appreciate it. So here's what's going to happen. If you're watching live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, don't go anywhere. We're not going anywhere. However, we are going to be on the auto side taking a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the defense and our final thoughts. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, Steeler fans, welcome back. We are here in the post-game show. Steelers win victorious 7-4 as we watch as the Denver Broncos are now up 14-0 on the Cleveland Browns. That's always fun to see the AFC North losing. We'll see if that holds, but we'll see as of right now, the Steelers are in prime position as they've already won this week and the Ravens playing on Sunday Night Football. But let's talk about this Steelers defense. They do the thing. There were times where it was really, really sketchy, and those stupid tip passes that just fell into Jamar Chase's hands on more than one occasion. And the DeMonte KZ, which probably should have been a pick six, it gets dropped. That was just the kind of day it was for the Steelers defense. TJ Watt spoke about this in his post-game press conference, saying the first half, it was great. We were on the bench most of the time, and then you go out there and you're fresh and all that good stuff. But let's talk about the pass rush first. They were able to get to Jake Browning. TJ Watt, he gets credited with 2 sacks. Cam Hayward gets 1. Nick Herbig gets 1. They total 4 with 5 quarterback hits. I know that TJ Watt, after the game, he said that he was upset that they gave Cam Hayward the whole sack and he didn't get a half sack. But still, nonetheless, I think Cam Hayward, with his sack, he set some marks from the Steelers in terms of most sacks by a defensive lineman in their franchise history. So kudos to Cam, kudos to TJ. Let's talk about that pass rush first. Dave, what do you think about those guys?
The pass rush, it felt like it was early on. Cincinnati was taking some time and holding the ball, and then TJ Watt made him pay. As the game went on, it seemed like they were trying to throw the ball faster and faster and faster because of the sacks. So to say that, it was 4 sacks, 4 sacks was good. But what they did is they also changed up. You kind of forced the other team's offense to have to get rid of the ball quickly, which limits other stuff that they could do. Who knows if they were going to try to take deeper shots with this quarterback? I don't know. That one throw to Jamar Chase down the sideline when Joey Porter was right there, where he caught the ball and his mouthpiece. Mm-hmm. That was just a really nice throw and a nice catch, even with good defense. So you can't do it all. But let me get back to the pass rush, because I know that's what we're talking about. I got to ask you guys a question. Do you remember seeing Nick Herbig on the field outside of that one play for a sack? And do you remember seeing Marcus Golden?
I do. Marcus Golden. He was on the field for an entire drive.
Was he? Okay.
Yes.
Because I'm like, it just seemed like TJ and Alex were out there a lot. That's what you can. And last week, people were complaining they're out there too much. To me, that's what you can do when your offense is holding on to the ball and those guys are getting a lot of rest, like you mentioned before. So I thought the pass rush did the job, did what it needed to do, and just didn't ever really let the young quarterback get comfortable.
All right, Brian, what are your thoughts on the pass rush?
What were the pressure numbers? Does anybody have those?
We don't usually get those.
Yeah, that's
PFF does those, so we won't get them until tomorrow.
I tell you what, I thought they were flying. And this is something that I've noticed, and I thought this right away at the beginning of the game, because TJ Watt had a sack early in this game. And when TJ Watt gets a sack early, it seems like it jumpstarts the defense a whole lot more, because offensive lines and the entire offense has to be on their heels, knowing that TJ Watt is ready to go. And now that's crazy to say that, oh my gosh, TJ Watt should always be ready to go. Yeah, he is. I'm not saying he's not, but they see it. They feel the impact of TJ Watt first right away, and that helps change games. I felt very good about this defense as soon as I saw that sack. It looked like he should have had a little bit more. I will say this. I just saw this. Somebody put it on the live chat, and I've got to bring it up. I forgot about it, but I was going to say this. Man, that late hit on TJ Watt. My gosh. That was really, 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 really late. I would have flagged him. I would have been mad.
That flag was deserved.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he got a lot that weren't deserved over the course of the season, but that was rough. But they were in his face, and I actually thought they could have got a lot more. There were a couple holes here and there that were not called, but there's no reason to complain. This defense, the pass rush, was rejuvenated, along with the entire defense too, because they don't feel like they have to have everything on their shoulders right now, like they have probably this entire season. And they responded. They gave up 7 points.
Yeah, and the Bengals did have some miscues, that's for sure. The third down play where they just, I think the right tackle or tight end, he picked up Chandon Sullivan and let TJ Watt go. Like, that's the wrong decision. Like, you don't take the defensive back and let the defensive player of the year go by and kill your quarterback. Nonetheless, they were putting good pressure. I would like to see Alex Highsmith, and I know PFF is always touting his pressures. He's leading the NFL in pressures. I'd love to see him get home a little bit more. It seems like it's been a while since we've had a game where Alex Highsmith is out there doing his thing, because you see it in the way that offenses are approaching the Steelers. You see how much attention they're paying to TJ Watt. And so with Cam Hayward back, and Cam actually looked like himself for the first time, maybe since he returned to the lineup, in my opinion, you would think that Alex Highsmith would be able to get home a little bit more. Nonetheless, we're not going to complain about the 4 sacks. The Steelers defense definitely put the pressure on the inexperienced Browning in this game. Let's talk about the pass defense. We mentioned some of those fluke plays. Jake Browning throws for 19 of 26, 227 yards, an 8.7 average, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, was sacked 4 times with a 96.2 rating. He had a Jamar Chase, 4 catches for 81 yards, Joe Mixon, 2 for 44, Trenton Irwin, 1 for 25, Tyler Boyd, 3 for 23. And then there's a laundry list of some others with a catch here or there. But guys, what did you think about the pass defense, pass defenses? Let me just say this quickly. Trenton Thompson with 1. Obviously, it was an interception. DeMonte KZ with 1. Should have been an interception. Patrick Peterson has 1, and so does Joey Porter Jr. Larry O gets 1 with a pass batted down at the line of scrimmage, and Levi Wallace has 1 for a total of 6. Dave, what do you think about the pass defense?
I thought they were doing a pretty nice job. I mean, when Jamar Chase gets 4 catches and 2 of them has to be on plays that, I mean, it's not like the defender was just in front of them and just touched the ball in front of them. They were flat up deflected, completely changing the trajectory of the pass, and he catches them and takes them. He had the one, I already mentioned that unreal catch. I thought that was a very sometimes the other team's going to make a really nice play, even if you play good defense, and that's what happened there. But I thought they did a good job of keeping him in check. That was one person that you could not afford for the Bengals to let get going, because then all the quarterback has to do is, I'm under pressure, I'm just going to throw it wherever I know Chase is going to be. So I thought overall they did pretty well. That third, was it a third and long? It was the third down on the first drive of the second half. And I think it was 3rd and 10. And they run the pick play, and they pick, of course, who do they pick? Levi Wallace, and he gives up the reception. That one was a little bit frustrating. I thought that was as much as a pick as the one that they called on Calvin Austin. I think, and I was okay with them actually calling the penalty on Austin. I felt that one there should have been called. Then they started getting into calling more of those offensive pass interferences after that play. But in all, it never felt like, did you ever feel that the Bengals were going to all of a sudden just erupt in their passing game? I didn't. I felt that the Steelers defense was keeping them in check for the most part.
Unless the special teams spotted them great field position. I never thought that, but that's neither here nor there. It's a discussion for another time. Brian, what did you think about the pass defense?
I thought the pass defense was really good because they were able to spread the ball around, but it was for all small potatoes. It wasn't much of anything. And the pass defense was helped out by the fact that the Bengals could not get the ball rolling on the ground. I have never seen Joe Mixon have only 16 yards in a game that I remember watching, especially against the Steelers. That's a guy that usually tears them up. And I expected that to happen, again today. So when I look at this, when you see Mixon only having 16 yards, but having 60 total yards, which means 44 out of the backfield, once again, small potatoes. And they were runs after catches that were getting them a majority of these yards. So I thought the defense played very inspired football, including Levi Wallace. And I just thought it was a great effort.
Yeah, I think when I think about the secondary, I still sometimes forget because it's been 4 games. They haven't had Minkah Fitzpatrick. Like, imagine what they're going to look like when they actually have an all-pro back there, getting everyone lined up, getting them ready to go. And then you have these questions that come through my mind, like, well, what do they do when, I know Keanu Neal's on injured reserve, so he's going to miss at least 4 games. But when he returns, in my opinion, if he's not going to be an inside linebacker, then let's keep Trenton Thompson out there. The guy's got a nose for the football. He seems to be playing good football. And if he's not asked to be the every down safety because Minkah has returned, he and KZ back there, I think that they're kind of, maybe you would say, tripping into some decent players out there. And we'll see if maybe better offenses can do things and exploit some mismatches and stuff. But for now, I like the way the secondary is trending. Joey Porter Jr., I don't even know the numbers because with Jamar Chase, the way they run zone schemes, and it's really difficult. I don't envy anyone from PFF that has to try and decipher, like, when Joey Porter's in this coverage, here's how he did, and here are the numbers with him, but whatever. When was the last time there was a Steeler defender that said, give me that guy? I'll take that guy. Like, we've talked about this before, right? He plays a physical style. He's got a lot of bravado, we'll put it that way, just like his dad in that regard. You're saying, like, I want Jamar Chase. Like, give me Jamar Chase. Not many people will say that, especially a rookie. And so for him, I think that speaks volumes. To me, that speaks volumes. That's just a guy that's like, you know what? I'm that guy. And he probably still has a chip on his shoulder that he wasn't drafted in the first round. And you know what? Go let him play. And if he's playing well, outside of those tip passes, there was just that one play that Jamar Chase made where it was a great throw and a great catch because he is a really good receiver. He's really freaking good. So good for Joey Porter Jr. I just love to see how he's developing and maturing. But let's switch gears now and go to the run defense. I think Bryan mentioned earlier about the Steelers' ability to shut down Joe Mixon. Rushing, they rushed for 25 yards. The Bengals rushed for 25 yards on 11 carries. Joe Mixon, 8 for 16. Browning himself at 3 for 9. Their long runs were 4 and 6 yards. Now, say what you want about the way the game went. This game was never out of reach. I'll go back to last season when Kenny Pickett's first start in Buffalo, where it's out of control so quick, you got to throw your way back into it. It wasn't that type of game. The Steelers shut down the run. Dave, anything to mention about the run defense?
Yeah, I was just waiting to talk about it because when you have a quarterback making his first start, what's the best thing you can do for him? Give him a good run game. What could the Bengals not get going? I mean, what you said there says it all. What was their longest run?
6 yards, I think.
I mean, I'm trying to
I'm looking at it right now. The longest run is 6 yards by Jake Browning.
Yes. No. So by Jake Brown, that's on a scramble. Okay. Yes. So you're talking about a designed run play. Their longest one was 4 yards. To me, that's what started everything. That's what allows a pass rush to get going. That's what allows the defense, the pass defense. I also want to say I thought Patrick Peterson did a nice job. That's what gets them going. It all starts with being able to stop the run. Loving Keanu Benton, loving having big number 97 back. Someone asked me during the game, what happened to DeMarvin Leal? I'm like, other guys were playing better.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if he got on the field. So
Well, I think that's Keanu Benton. It's the Keanu Benton effect because he's playing so well and he's so big. DeMarvin Leal, we talked about this. I know Shannon White's talked about it a bunch. He's like a tweener. Do you play him on the edge? Do you play him inside? You're not going to play him inside. He's going to get pushed around.
And the Steelers looked like they were going to be thin at edge whenever it was going, during the off season and everything else, but they're not.
Yeah.
Herbig shows he can do it. Golden's been a great veteran guy to have there. They don't need DeMarvin Leal to fill in at edge yet. Let me knock on wood, So therefore, he would need to be more in that defensive line rotation, and he can't get there. And I think it is really the Keanu Benton effect. And, of course, Cam being back.
If I'm telling DeMarvin Leal anything, it's, hey, put on weight. Stop being a tweener, gain some weight, be an interior guy, and beat out Isaiah Loudermilk. Like, that's how you find your way onto the getting more play.
Did you see him out there today?
Well, and then the thing is, too, is we do have to mention, I don't want to pound on, say we're just constantly piling on DeMarvin Leal.
Yeah.
The Steelers didn't play a ton of defensive snaps today.
No. So it's not that he's bad. It's just other people were playing.
Cam played a bunch because he was fresh. He didn't have to go out there for extended drives and stuff like that. So, okay.
Yeah.
Bryan.
Because, I was just going to say last game against the Browns, because I already have those snaps. DeMarvin Leal played 5 snaps and Isaiah Loudermilk played 18. I don't know if we're going to see that's what they did even in this game or not. Armand Watts is getting more snaps. I noticed him out there today, and he was trying to run stuff down.
He's a bigger body.
Downfield and stuff. So
bigger body. All right, Bryan, what do you think about the run defense?
Well, I thought it was actually spectacular. Wow, you bring in a guy like Michael Walker. He's playing some good football in that front seven. He's hitting people. They're getting a lot of stops from that run. I mean, if we were giving grades, and I hate giving grades, but when you only give up 25 yards rushing to the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Mixon, who at the last second I took him off my dual team because I just couldn't afford him. And I'm like, oh man, he's going to tear up the Steelers is what I was thinking. Wow. This was absolutely phenomenal effort. And we're talking about Keanu Benton, and Keanu put a tweet out of a video tweet. Everybody is dancing and happy in the locker room. Cam's dancing. I think that's Herbig that's putting on. I think that's Nick putting on some of the best moves in there. But they are enjoying it. They're having fun. It's not bad dancing. When I say bad dancing, it's not. They are celebrating because they feel like. I feel like they turned a corner today, and I feel like they feel like they turned a corner and they know what they can do. So this is probably a much different locker room than last week, but somebody just put in the live chat that Keanu Benton's a steal. Of course, he's definitely a steal. And when he was drafted, we were looking for those bigger names. We were looking at, and same with Herbig too. We were looking for different names. But, Keanu Benton was getting a lot of, towards the end. There were people thinking that, they could possibly take him in the first round. I didn't think that was going to happen, but I just knew that this guy was something special when I started watching tape of him. So I really love it. I think he's one of those unsung heroes on that team. And if it wasn't for the fact that you have other rookies balling out, you would think that Keanu Benton could be a Joe Green award winner. And in other years, he is the Joe Green award winner. I mean, like the Super Bowl year, they had a special teamer win it, an undrafted special teamer in 2008. And his name is escaping me right now. And I met him.
I remember too. I remember that too.
But they just are playing like a team on defense. And one thing that I said that a lot of our fans, Steeler fans, are going to turn, and the next guy that they're going to be going after, and I actually said they should be going after him, is Terrell Austin. Man, that defense stepped up today. And it's because they are one unit.
Yeah, some fluky plays. That was this game. And there were times we've seen it with the Steelers in the past in the Mike Tomlin era where those fluky games happen where, the Steelers are outgaining them. They're dominating the play, but because of those weird tip passes that go to Jamar Chase twice, and come on now. But still, it is what it is. Let's get these 2 super chats on the screen here before we go into special teams and then also to final thoughts. So here we go. Faceless Man gives us $4.99. He said, imagine having a Travis Kelce-like weapon on our offense. If we needed any confirmation, Canada held us back. Falk and Sully called a great game plan. I like it. I absolutely like it for sure. And Justin Gall gives us $9.99. He said, let's get Michael Walker and KZ on the jugs. Trenton Thompson finally on his 3rd attempt this year. I will say the DeMonte KZ is usually a ball hawk. Like that dude led the NFL in interceptions in his career. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. His drop was the one that's like, wow, like that was the surprising one. But nonetheless, Steelers find a way to get that takeaway. They finished 500, they even with the fumble of Jalen Warren, and they win. They also got 7 points off of that turnover as well. So your pot out there for all you pot users. Anyways, let's go to special teams. Dave, what do you think about?
I use a pot every time I make dinner, Jeff. I think that's
there you go. There you go. That's exactly what I was referencing. Let's talk about some special teams. Danny Smith's units. I've got my issues with them, but Dave, what about you?
Yeah, I'm not going to blame Calvin. This is on a different note. It was really electric to see Calvin Austin in the preseason. Just hasn't materialized so far in the regular season, where I thought it would be exciting, anticipate every punt. Could this be the big play? Now, not even necessarily because of Austin. Every time there's a special teams play, I'm just like, don't get a penalty. Just don't fumble. Just get the ball and go with and with the best field position you can get. Don't try to make a bunch of moves. Turn up field, get 3 yards and go down. That's fine with me. I really don't like the kicking it short. That kick by Boswell, the way it bounced and everything. Did they show her anything if he slipped? I mean, it was raining and everything.
That's what I asked.
That's the only thing I would say, because if that was the decision to do that on purpose, my goodness, how many times have the Steelers actually pinned the other team inside the 20? Yes, I know that if it's a touchback or they fair catch it, they get it at the 25. But getting it between the 20 and the 25 is really negligible for the risk reward. Are they pinning teams inside the 20 very much? If you're not, just give them the ball at the 25 every time. Seriously, the defense is playing well enough. Give them the ball at the 25, not at the 45. That makes all the difference in the world. I would much rather, if you're trying to choose between the 5, the 25, and the 45, and the safe bet's the 25, I would much rather go 25 rather than the small risk, the small reward of 5 versus the big risk of the 45. I don't know. They also got it. I mean, the players have to be better on it, but it's the decisions of what they're doing that is kind of bugging me.
Bryan, what's your thoughts on the special teams?
Hello, Roger Goodell's office. Yeah. Can I speak to Roger? He's in a meeting right now. Yeah, this is Danny Smith Jr. Reason I'm calling, I just want to see where we are on banning kickoffs altogether because I can't coach them. So that's how I feel with Danny Smith. I'm sorry, I didn't do the gum chewing in there. I should have. But you know what? It's almost like Danny Smith Jr. I think that his personal photographer is out of prison because he has naked pictures again of somebody. It's just, nothing. I think more football ability got knocked out of him 2 weeks ago against Green Bay. I just feel like it feels like he doesn't want to coach special teams. They want to just they just don't want to try. They don't want to return. There's all kinds of lack of returns. I just feel like it would probably benefit the Steelers if there was no kickoff anymore.
Yeah, can it be worse? And Dave, you brought up Calvin Austin III, and I feel the same way in terms of you're waiting for the exciting play, and now you're just saying, please, Lord, don't fumble it, and just if it's a fair catch it when you're supposed to. That's my thought process whenever he's back there. But how many times have we seen Calvin Austin III receive a punt, and it just looks like a giant wave of the other team's colors, and it looks like no one's blocking. Where is the return team? Where are they setting up their blocks? It doesn't look like there's any rhyme or reason. When you go back all the way to the early 2000s with like Antoine Randall L., you would see where things are sealed off and he has a way to go. When you think about Santonio Holmes and some of the returns that he had, same thing. Antonio Brown, when he was a returner, same thing. Gosh darn it. It's just frustrating as all get out when you just see Calvin Austin. And in this game, he's surrounded by black and orange. You're like, this isn't going anywhere. Yeah.
From a coaching standpoint, now remember, this is high school. This is not professional, so I'm not claiming that it definitely equates. But when I was coaching high school football, we were either in punt block or punt return. That if you were going after the punt, you were not setting up the return. So are they going after the block too much? Or are they, I mean, you can tell a lot of times at the snap if they're going for the block or if they're setting up supposedly for a return. But that's exactly right. But see, what special teams can't do is give your team a boost. Jeff, you and I met playing softball. So do you remember the saying in softball, what your team's down a few runs? What do you need to get back into it? It was couple hits, couple walks, a bloop and a blast. That was the saying. We would always say, hey, all we need is a couple hits, couple walks, a bloop and a blast.
Yep.
Special teams can provide the bloop, meaning just kind of one of those things that kind of gives to me that or in their scoring drive, they got the hit from the return, and then they got the bloop from the tip pass that got them down there, and it was kind of just some fluky stuff to get them right in there and taking the lead. Special teams can't be part of that element. You don't have to win special teams. You just can't lose it. But at the same time, we're talking special teams every day. You can't talk about special teams without giving big props to Chris Boswell. And, only missed so far this year is the 61-yarder. So we don't want to get too down on that because, I mean, my goodness, if he misses one of those kicks, we got a whole different game going on here. And that one was pretty close. And he was, kicking not in the best situations and things like that. But never once did I doubt when the Steelers lined up for a field goal if they were going to hit it or not. So I do want to at least appreciate that.
For sure. Bryan, anything to add? Or are you good?
No, I feel really good. I will say I am happy with Presley Harvin. So I'm not talking about any of the guys doing the kicking right now. It's just the return game on both sides of the ball on offense and defense. Any kind of return game is stale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let's get this up. Justin Gall gives us $4.99. He said, you can't blame Danny Smith for punting on 4th and 2 from the Bengals 42. Coaching error by Tomlin.
Wait a second. I disagree wholeheartedly with that.
Okay.
Why? That was the Steelers' first possession. They got to the 42. You're like, yeah, you can go for it. This was the kid's first NFL start, the other team's quarterback. If you go for it and you don't get it there, I know that you say that's living in your fears, but if you don't get it there, you are giving them the spark that maybe they need to set the tone for the whole game. If you punt and say, hey, we're going to put him at the 20-yard line or worse, no matter what here to start. I get the flaws. I don't know that it's that he had to do it that way. Yes, he could have gone for it on 4th to it would be okay. But to think that was just an all-out bad decision, there is plenty of justification of why to do that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're going a little long. We apologize, although I don't think people care. We still have almost 600 people watching us live right now. So, Dave, all right, so let's go to Bryan first. Bryan, why don't you do your final thoughts?
All right, so there are holes to be poked in Kenny Pickett's performance today, sure. But I could definitely say that this was the start of what we're looking at for Kenny Pickett. I just feel like there's rejuvenation in him. And I keep on using that word. I just learned to spell it today in spell check. I was spelling it wrong for a long, long time. But I just kind of feel that with Kenny, there's an E in it. I didn't know. But I just kind of feel that Kenny Pickett has taken a lot of grief, and there's still people going to say, well, you're delusional. He's still not the guy. I don't care. He's a guy that if you didn't have that performance by Kenny Pickett, you don't win today. So all I'm going to say is what we saw of Pat Fryermuth, getting him back into this game plan. knowing that this was not a predictable offense, knowing that you have so many other, we talked a long time. We even talked in the last couple of weeks. Everybody was saying with all those weapons on offense, you should be scoring, and he just can't hit them. Sure, it's going to get time for him to look like a great quarterback. I would have loved to have seen him get 300, and he came awfully close. He would have a lot closer if Deontay Johnson holds onto the ball. And then because the fumble comes next. So what I want to say about Kenny Pickett is I'm still going to be patient with the guy. I'm not talking about drafting a quarterback in 2024. I'm talking about seeing what the Steelers can do in 2023 and what progress can be made. And a lot of progress was made today.
All right, Dave, final thoughts.
All right, final thoughts. For those of you that are wondering, with the whole Matt Canada thing, this to me, even though the players came out and were glowing about stuff with him and, sad for him that we couldn't do better, the way they played today was completely different than what they said in front of the cameras to be nice. And that is, this was a team that, and a lot of people in offense that felt defeated before they even took the field. They felt like they weren't being given an opportunity to succeed. It is so hard to go on the field if you don't feel like you're having an opportunity to succeed. And as Jeff said at the beginning, coaching matters. Now, for those of you that think coaching is really the only thing that matters, it's not that far. No, but it definitely matters. And the Steelers, to me, this was something that now the players have something they can believe in. Did they only get 16 points? Yes, they only got 16 points. But what was the big thing people were making a big deal out of? The 400 yards. I said during the game, I don't care about the 400 yards. I care about them winning. They did. Now, if they win and they get the 400 yards, that's great. First time all season they outgained their opponent. Boy, that would have been something to really note if they did that and lost the game, just because of the irony of it. But the offense and therefore I think the whole team, I think they just have a better feel and more trust and more faith that they can get it done and not have their hands tied behind their back. Now, unfortunately, though, for you all, I'm not going to be here next week to do the post-game show because fortunately for me, I'm going to be at Acrisure Stadium in Section 122 with my daughter cheering on the Steelers. So if you're going to the game, make sure you hit me up. I'd love to see anybody that's there. And I'm just ready for them to get on the win streak. I'm ready for them to break the cycle. Let's keep the cycle going and then break it because the cycle has been loss, win, win, loss, win, win, loss, win, win, loss, win. Let's get the win the next week, and then let's break the cycle. Go Steelers.
All right, my final thoughts are when you think about this game, when you think about coming into this contest, whether you're talking about the Joe Burrow-less Bengals on 10 days rest, whether you're talking about the Steelers making a move away from their offensive coordinator, there was nothing certain about this game. People want to say they beat a bad team, blah, blah, blah. There was nothing certain about this game for either team. Yeah, I did my behind enemy line segment with Brandon Harriet of Running Through the Jungle, our FFSN Cincinnati Bengals coverage. And we both were kind of like, yeah, we don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect. Like Jake Browning's first NFL start, the Steelers going into a new offensive system or new offensive coordinator. So much stuff was unknown. I left saying if we can show signs of life on offense and find a way to win a division game on the road, I will take it no matter what. And I'm standing by those comments. 16-10,
Amen.
Don't care. They took steps forward on offense. Division game, super important. On the road, really important. 7-4, right where you want to be. We're going into December. We ready to unleash hell? I don't know.
There. Yeah,
I did. I'm not. Hey, I don't live in my fears. Okay, let's. We're calling it a show. Steelers win 16-10. Bryan and I guess we'll be back next week. Dave will be at the game. Maybe we'll get a little call in. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see how we
in the meantime, let's enjoy the content across Steel Curtain Network. Visit us at steelcurtainnetwork.com for the written word. Wherever you get your podcast, don't forget those audio-only shows like My Let's Ride podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning. Bryan's Bad Language tomorrow at noon. Dave's Stat Geek on Thursday morning. It is the best content you'll find for the Steelers fanatics. So tell your friends. We'll see you next week, hopefully after another Steelers win. Take it easy, everyone.
How could I go on? everybody else gets a little tight,